Thank you all for coming. Thanks. So yeah, the presentation is called Click If You Like Jesus, Comment If You Love Walmart Coupons, a CMO's Guide to Facebook Engagement. And I've been in business for 2 decades in content creation, and I'm now doing social media consulting full-time, but I've spent most of my career as a journalist. So I really wish there was a standardized way to measure engagement. And the reason why we can tell there's no standard is that if you look from one vendor to another of engagement metrics, everybody's got a different result to whatever question you ask them. Everywhere you look, you see something different. Of course, you have some common conventions. Most of us add up likes and comments and shares to get total aggregate engagement. Turn that into a percentage and you have a rate, multiply by 100 divided by fans, you get engagement rate. I'm constantly seeing people saying, oh, I've got a better way to do this, and one I saw this week was presented by Wise Metrics, and you need to dig into the Facebook Insights API for this to come up with users engaged, and you would divide that by number of posts, and then divide that by users reached, and multiply that by 100, and you get engagement rate. And again, that's better, but that's not perfect. So one way I can tell counting likes, comments, and shares is just not cutting it is if you look at the ranking of the top 20 most engaging pages on Facebook today versus a year ago, using data pulled from all Facebook stats, which takes data directly from Facebook, 1/4 of the pages listed are identical to pages listed in the ranking a year ago, and one would expect to see a lot more changes than that. Also interesting, religious pages are far more prevalent than other types of content, about 1/3 of the pages. And again, I can fully believe that religion is the kind of topic where if you feel strongly enough about it to connect with it on Facebook, then you're probably going to engage more. But what about soccer? Soccer fans really engage, and you see some of that in that top 20, but not enough. There's movies, music, retail, politics. Music in particular, we know rock stars have the largest number of likes, and they're underrepresented in that list, in my opinion. And again, if you look for top 20 engaging pages among other vendors or look elsewhere, you're going to see a different listing. And if this was standardized, there would be some more things in common instead of so much variation. So what I see is missing from these formulas, one thing is, I think that talking about this metric is great, but we've yet to learn whether it's perfectly synonymous with shares. That would be helpful to know. So do we count those two things separately? I also would like to see some sort of accounting of, like, when you see a video that's really cool and you hit the replay button, that doesn't show up in any of these metrics. Some videos are so funny you want to replay it, and that wouldn't get counted separately. Similarly, when people maximize the photo viewer to full screen instead of looking at it in the regular viewer, no reflection of that in the metrics. Number of times people tag content, like maybe the person who creates the content does all the tagging, or other people who are involved add tags. There's a lot of different ways you might be tagging something more frequently, and that's not reflected in the numbers. Similarly, non-fans versus fans. Both would engage with your content, but usually you're going to see engagement by your fans, even though your fans might forward your content, and then non-fans could engage with it on the fans page, and you wouldn't really see a reflection of it. Similarly, there's reach. Facebook is refining the reach statistics, but still, we see these percentages at the bottom of posts telling us what percentage of our fans were reached. If we adjusted our engagement metrics for reach, there would be a much bigger percentage you could point to. Finally, negative threads can get some really big numbers. And boy, if there was a way to refine that and make for a more intelligent way of showing negative threads, you would have a more accurate number. And I'll tell you why right here. About a year and a half ago, December 2010, a Chipotle Mexican grill employee was careless enough to send an update to the company's Facebook page from his mobile phone saying, "Oh, I ran over a cat." And oh boy, you know how that kind of thing blows up. So of course the company deleted it, but not before people took screen grabs. So we had a screenshot I'm able to provide you with in the slide here. And the company posted an apology, and even with that apology, people kept posting jokes about cat burritos, hundreds and hundreds of comments. And of course, nobody believes that this was a hack. You know, don't call something a hacking unless you really were hacked, because that'll just backfire on you. So people know, I mean, you're better off just calling it what it is. This employee is fired, you know, you'd look much better. So again, something like that just gets huge, huge amounts of engagement. Of course, there's EdgeRank, which determines how things are placed in the newsfeed based on engagement is really one component of it. And we only know somewhat how each of the components of EdgeRank are arrived at. So, you know, there's no way to, again, that EdgeRank can really give us a standardization for engagement rankings. By the time we figure out how all these subcomponents of EdgeRank are arrived at, of course, Facebook's going to update the algorithm, and we'll have to figure it out again. So if we knew more of these details about the components, we'd have a standardized way to weight different things. We can only guess. We know comments have more weight than likes. We know photos are more engaging, but we don't have a mathematical formula for that. And there's negative feedback. It's just getting started as a metric. And sarcasm does not show up in any negative feedback metric, which is a problem because that's the prevailing way people love to complain on social media, and there's no way any automation is going to pick up on that. And even the age-old, you know, who has unliked you, you know, anybody who tries to show unlikes, you know, who unliked you, usually it's for profiles. Those apps don't last. They get pulled. And if you want to try to figure out who unliked a page, a profile, it's a lot of manual work that just the time you put in doesn't make sense. You're better off reading up on other things on your fans' profiles than trying to figure out who doesn't like you anymore. Of course we need these numbers. We have to prove to the boss and our business partners that we're performing in social media. And social media is really just the latest form of promotions that, dating back to the advent of advertising, we've had the problem of having to cost justify something that is intangible. We have to explain something that is not really a number. You can't, you know, amortize an ad. But we have to have some numbers to show those we do business with that, yes, this is a good expenditure. However, engagement's a tough one to use when trying to cost justify something because it's not standardized, and ultimately, like any kind of analytics for social media, you really can only use these numbers to look at which posts are doing better and do more of that. And ultimately, it's never going to be a substitute for reading the words, you know, looking at what fans are liking and doing more of. So can you automate engagement? Well, sort of, but the apps out there, there's just more of them than ever. 232 plus developers in Facebook's database, and if you ever look on the developers section of the site, if you ever do a search, they don't really give you much information to make a decision. I mean, Facebook, of course, doesn't want to influence you, but you get 4 categories, and then there's 3 subcategories in page management and 10 subcategories in insights, and then, you know, then you have geography is the next thing they'll differentiate for you, and price you find out when you ask the vendor, and then you're kind of on your own guessing which of these 232 vendors to work with. Now, of course, a great way to decide which apps are cool is to find out who's using them, but big difference between who's using them versus number of users. So if you look at which page application has the most users, static HTML iframe tabs has about 22.4 million users. pages, really. I'm sure a lot of them are sitting there unused. That's a theory. But the premium version of this ends up costing as much as some of these other high-end apps do. But you know, if you just went by the numbers, that really doesn't tell you much of all. And I see a lot of these static HTML iframe tabs sitting abandoned since Facebook converted to timeline for pages. So, you know, you really got to dig more to find out about apps. So, getting to something that's in the title of this presentation, Jesus Daily is the #1 most engaging page on that top 20 list for basically a year in a row plus, and it's kind of ironic that it's the most engaging page. You got to wonder who are these fans. But when you look at the page, they are really good with the calls to action. I mean, everywhere, not just every post, but like right here on the About section, there's 3 calls to actions. Like if you love Jesus, welcome to the page. Post your pics, verses, praises, and prayers. Post Jesus Daily onto your wall. And then even their little thumbnails have call to action. You listen to the radio, and then calls to engagement. Got hope? Are you saved? I forgive you. That's pretty aggressive for a non-commercial kind of page there. The most engaging post ever, according to this page, is, well, look what they have. They have cute things, photos of puppies, ponies, etc. And are you thankful for God's little helpers? Like and share. So engaging question, call to action, and then another call to action. Invite your friends to help name all 45 helpers. So 45 cute pictures to get people clicking. And so this has 314,984 likes and 16,114 comments. So there's some clues there about engagement, but again, it's specific to Jesus Daily. The phrase, click if you love Jesus, actually came from the second most engaging page on that ranking, Dios es bueno, which means God is good in Spanish. And they actually wrote, it translates as, click like if you need Jesus right now, all caps, no photo, pretty simple, but you know, 100,220 likes, 3,112 comments, and 897 shares. That's a pretty good share figure. None of the cutesy gimmicks, just a clever call to action. But I like talking about this as a metric much better. When I look at which consumer-facing brands have the most people talking about this versus likes, you know, I see 13 consumer-facing brands with more likes than Jesus Daily. Walmart has the most people talking about this out of the 13, which is why I'm going to talk about Walmart next. But still, look at the difference there. Jesus Daily has 4.386 plus million people talking about this versus 13.4 million plus likes. And then you have Walmart has 871,527 talking about this versus 17 million plus likes. So there's still a big difference there. Something Jesus is doing is just much more engaging than brands' engagement strategies. So you always want to look at what Jesus Daily is doing to get ideas for engagement, even if you're not a religious page. But I like what Walmart has going on its page. One thing they do is they regularly update their cover photo. I see a lot of pages that we switch to timeline, they have one cover photo and they haven't changed it. And Walmart's changing its cover photo because, you know, that's what people notice is the cover photo. And this cover photo, when I was looking at it, had 994 likes. And hey, they're promoting a product, which is kind of interesting because Facebook's rules say you're not supposed to overtly run an ad, and we see brands kind of coming right up close to the line where that rule is, and so they're almost advertising that baby pool that's for sale at Walmart. They're not really saying it. Not as much with the call to actions going on in the About section or the thumbnails. They probably could be doing that like Jesus Daily is, but we know photos are the most engaging types of content on average for pages, so yeah, update your photos, of course. And And this week they've asked fans to submit summer photos, promising to feature the best ones on the cover spot. I noticed clearly they must have gotten this one from Facebook Marketing Solutions page, because right after Timeline went live for pages, they put up a contest. You know, brands submit photos and we'll pick the best ones to feature here. Well, this is working because over 27,895 likes, 1,314 comments, 6,945 shares, and of course, you know, puppies, you know, pets, babies, those are always going to be the winners on the photos. Another thing they do really well is they ask fans what they like most and then tie in a promotion to something that the company is selling. In this example here, you've got, when it's hot, what do you like to drink? Choose one of these four, and then, hey, we're selling this product. And hey, this worked, you know, 4,934 likes, 2,119 comments, 170 shares. It's a pretty good way of promoting a product instead of just saying buy this. They ask you what you like first. Something else I really like that Walmart does is posts about the things they do in the local communities where they do business, and especially things with a do-good, humanitarian kind of angle to them. And this one here, they've got an infographic showing what they're doing. Yeah, who wouldn't want to click like on something about giving jobs to kids? And yeah, of course, they've got 10,602 likes, 252 comments, 346 shares. And they ask you to like this if you pledge to support kids in your community. People clearly like that. So another thing I like on Walmart's page is they'll tap into someone else's big numbers if they don't have them. So the rapper Pitbull, who I hadn't even heard of till I looked at this promotion, but actually he's ranked 17 on the top 20 most engaging pages on all Facebook stats right now. So why not tap his engagement numbers? And that's what they're doing. They're asking fans to vote on which individual Walmart store should get a visit from the rapper. And it's kind of ironic that this town we've never heard of in Alaska is in the lead right now, so that'll be interesting. But you've got that local element and kind of a contest there, and celebrity, a lot of different things combined to get the engagement. And a tactic that works really well that Walmart also does is combining a charitable venture or charitable idea with a contest. And the best example I saw was this holiday season. There was a promotion saying nominate nonprofits and vote on which ones should get pieces of 1.5 million in donations. And we'll announce a new recipient every day from December 12th through 13th. I see that a lot on these rock star pages, like Lady Gaga in particular. She'll say, vote on which charity I should donate to, and if you vote, I'll enter you in a sweepstakes to win concert tickets. That does really well. And of course, it's good for your brand. You know, you want to be associated with something that's a feel-good like charity, and charity in particular seems to just get really big engagement across industry I've seen. You look good, you get a tax write-off, and if you are working with a company that has a philanthropy department, that's something to make sure you get them tied into your social media efforts. You really want to involve them because they're the key to getting more engagement on your page. The trick is not to overdo it because people will wonder whether you're being insincere. So, you know, I would say no more than like 4 times a year for that. So that means you got to come up with other engagement tactics and ideas. And to do that, you really want to optimize for engagement. Basically, ask your fans what they're most interested in, and also look at their profiles to see what they're interested in, rather than just waiting for them to ask you questions. And the best way, I think, to do this is as you get the new likes, look at who they are, rather than, I mean, going through thousands, millions of fans to figure out who they like. I mean, obviously, there's apps to do this mining, but as you get new likes, look at what they're interested in. And, of course, post more of what your fans are interested in, and Stop posting things you think they're not interested in, and make sure you read the comments on your wall to fine-tune your content. You'd think this is common sense, but I've been reading that only 30% of comments on brands' pages get responses. I can't imagine what the 70% that aren't responding, what's going on there. There's 37 million pages on Facebook, so there's a lot that could be going on there. A lot of that's probably small businesses, but who knows? You want to regularly monitor your page insights and analytics to see which posts are getting the most positive responses. That's where you want to read. You don't want these negative responses are, you know, I don't agree that there's no such thing as bad publicity. There's bad publicity. So you want to post more stuff that performs best and that is positive. As for the subject of timing, see a lot of reports coming out constantly about what's the best time of day of the week, when should you post what to get the most engagement. And of course, all of these studies are working with a different set of data to begin with, so that's going to affect these statistics. But since everybody's telling you a different day of the week, different time of the day, you know, it's really going to depend on what's going on your own page. You can look at, you know, these averages as a starter point, you know, for benchmarking, but, you know, ultimately your page is going to tell you what works. I hear a lot of people telling audiences, start one new thread per day. Well, you know, I was just speaking to somebody from Infinigraph, the organizer of this event, before I came up here, and he was showing me pages where they're posting 20 a day, clearly disproving that only post once a day. You really need to look at what's going on your own page to figure out what's the best frequency per day of the week and so on. And you want to ask questions that appeal to your users' emotions, like what do they love, what do they hate, what's annoying them, you know, rather than just, I mean, a lot of people post questions, but what do people love? That's going to get people clicking. And what's annoying them? That's going to make them click too. Your wall, again, I can't say this enough, people are going to tell you if you're posting too much. They will tell you. And they don't tell you when you're not posting enough, unfortunately. You know, that's, you know, they will tell you when you post too much. And however, sometimes people will tell you they want something, and actually you figure out through testing that they don't really want that. And you're going to find that out through testing and optimization. But don't just expect your fans to talk amongst themselves. You want to moderate the discussion and respond to people directly using the @ tag. I've noticed that just clicking likes on comments on a page, unlike when people comment on your profile, if you click like, they know you clicked like on the profile, so you're acknowledging I read your post. When I've tested this, but when you click like on a comment on a page, when you click like as a page alias, the end user does not get a notification of that. So you want to respond to people directly so they know you're engaging with them. A great way to boost engagement is through the new promoted posts. And I'm not talking about sponsored stories, sponsored page posts, but rather promoted posts, which boost the visibility of a post to your own fans, not to people who aren't your fans, although that's great too, but you'll see a link underneath the area to post that says promote the post. And definitely do that, and you will see more engagement from that by far. Of course, I'm not saying don't run sponsored stories. You should. That'll promote your page to people who aren't your fans yet. And a great way to get more engagement, of course, is coupons and sweepstakes that appeal to your fans' interests and emotions. Facebook's made it a lot easier to do this with the offers feature for pages, which is free. You can do about one of them per week for free. Of course, you can boost them. You can promote the offer, and then more of your friends or more of your fans see them. You can also, if you want to go the distance and be a premium advertiser, then you can boost an offer, and it'll go on the homepage so that people who aren't yet your fans will see it. Regardless of whether you're boosting it or not, you want to ask your fans to share these offers with their friends, and that way you'll get more fans. As for controversy, like you've heard me mention, you should use it sparingly. They can get really active, but they can backfire if you don't balance it with diplomacy. You know, a good controversy might be bringing up political race. Bad controversy, you don't want people talking about cat burritos. So you're better off being diplomatic ahead of time than having a situation where you delete posts, because fans will notice when you delete posts. They will probably make fun of you about it in a comment. I've rarely seen a situation where you delete something and you don't hear about it later, unless you have a policy guidelines posted on your site explaining about this. I'll discuss that in a minute. If you've got a disaster plan written up for managing emergencies, you can empower everyone on your team to respond quickly, just so there are some template things to say in an emergency, so that you don't want to be waiting for the decision manager to comment on something. You want to have if you're monitoring your page 24/7, 365, whoever's on weekend shift can handle the emergency until the manager shows up. And so speaking of guidelines, those are a really great way to keep the engagement positive. I highly recommend that you write a set of guidelines if you don't have that already. You know, talk about how you moderate your wall discussion. And a nice place to start, you can talk about Facebook spam filter automatically blocks posts that are in all caps or just URLs. Do you want to, end up in the filter? No, so avoid doing that. And then you can go from there into other things that might be gray areas, whether you want to screen out obscenities on a site that has a minimum age of 13, that's up to you, but you should put that in your guidelines instead of letting people guess. And I really recommend that you put your guidelines in the form of an app, like one of those formerly known as tabs, that you can put in the row of thumbnails under your cover image. That way you can label it, and you are not limited by, if you pin it, pinning is great too, but you can only pin one thing at a time, and eventually you're going to want to pin something else. So if you create a thumbnail app for your guidelines, then you can have it right there in that top row of thumbnails. And I also think it's a good idea to post a copy of your guidelines on your website, and then you can also include your policies for managing your other social media profiles, and that way you keep engagement positive. So to sum up, the numbers are good, but you kind of need to look beyond them in order to truly have good engagement on social media profiles. I fully believe that the best measurement for social media performance has yet to be invented, and so in the meantime, focus on fostering good conversations with your fans for engagement. Thanks. I guess we have time for questions.